Never seen a lame man walk. Never heard a dumb man talk. Never seen a blind man see. I promise you will change his name. Never seen a canceled death. Never seen all the poor get fed. Never seen a prisoner set free. I promise you will change his name.
Everybody, how's it going? It's the Big C and Bigger T podcast coming to you not live, recorded on the computer.
We're live right now.
We're live right now, yeah. And your boy here was a little late, but man, Clint, how you doing, man?
Man, I've been eating the barbecue on Patrick's screen.
I know,
but I'm still
that's
hungry.
That's hard to put up for a couple fat boys.
Oh man, that is by far the best looking guest we've had on the podcast. Not Patrick, right. But the barbecue behind it.
That's right.
Yeah. Now we see your bed.
He's just a floating head.
There you go. What's going on?
Let me introduce.
Please do.
Let me introduce our guest. You see him floating around in the barbecue, his happy face there. Patrick Netherton. This guy wears all kinds of hats. He's the voice of the Northwestern State Demons in Natchitoches, Louisiana. He also has a radio show on, I put it down here so I'll get you, 11:30 The Tiger, correct? And the Patrick Netherton Show from 3 to 5 on weekdays. You can find that on Facebook if you want to watch it. It goes live every day. I get the notices and pay attention to it every now and then. And Patrick's on there talking sports. He interviews some of the big. Look, listen, y'all. Me and Clint often say we don't know a lot.
We don't.
We're not the smartest guys around.
That's a fact.
But we know the guy.
We know. And
this is the guy. Patrick's the guy. Patrick's one of the guys. We know the guy. He interviews all the smart people. He's interviewed Sam Pittman. He's interviewed Ed Orgeron. He's interviewed. Today was Skip Holtz, right?
Skip Holtz, absolutely.
Yeah, and so he's out there. He's talking to all the folks from the media and all the different things. Used to work for the Tim Brando show. So he's rubbed elbows with the elites out there.
So Patrick, Travis just listed off a lot of accomplishments.
I'm not through. I'm not through.
Okay, go ahead.
He's also,
my bad,
one of the best road trip buddies to have around. Yeah. Gone on many road trips together, especially in college, whether that was little short trips or farther down into the Big D or wherever else. And he's the keeper of the hands because my hands are small. I know they're not yours. They are my own, or they are his. Anyway, we have the same hands, Clint.
We're hand twins.
Hand twins.
Hand twins.
According to Patrick's mother.
That's
Patrick.
I don't
Netherton.
Yeah, we are hand twins. Like we got the same hands. There's no doubt about it.
I got a little claw hand. There you go.
Patrick Netherton, how in the world are you, man? It is
I'm great,
to have you on here.
Man, I'm fantastic. I'm happy to be here. You know, I think this is the first podcast I've ever done.
Yeah, really? And I was going to ask before, I interrupted Travis and then he made me not interrupt him. I mean, like Travis said, you've interviewed Sam Pittman, you've interviewed Orgeron, you worked for Tim Brando.
Mm-hmm.
Where on your list of accomplishments is appearing on this mediocre podcast?
In your accomplishment. I mean, it's first on podcasts I've appeared on because I think it's the first one I've ever been on.
That's cool.
It's also first on the Hand Twins podcasts and interviews. Yeah, I don't know that I've interviewed. I mean, Sam Pittman and I might have similar hands. I really don't know.
If y'all ever like, if Travis gets like to be like Tom Segura where he has multiple podcasts, I don't know how many podcasts Tom Segura has. I think it's 28. But that's your next podcast, the Hand Twins podcast.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, we used to literally just text message each other randomly with, hey, I need to borrow the hands this weekend. I've got something I've got to get done. So, I mean, that's been a running joke for years.
That's right.
And Jewel, of course, my hands are small. I know they're not yours. They are my own.
That's right. It all started with first time I met Patrick's mother. He kept telling her, said, Mom, found this guy. He's my long lost brother. Because we were both into sports and into a lot of the same things. And both handsome fellas.
I mean, striking.
No doubt.
So I walk in the dorm and his mom grabs me by the hand and grabs him by the hand and just standing there in between us and just like swinging her arms back and forth. And then she looks down and she goes, they have the same hands. And from there, that's where we get the hand joke.
I mean, that's funny because when me and you used to go places, Travis, we'd be accused of being twins all the time when we were younger.
Yeah.
Now we look nothing alike at all.
I just hang out with people that look good at me. So that's
there you go.
I mean, look, you can't have anyone look better than you if they look just like you.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, Patrick, man, it is great having you on here, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Each week we do a Holy Shnikes moment, which I know you'll appreciate because you are a fan of Chris Farley.
Holy Shnikes.
We watched Tommy Boy probably a few times together there back in the
Once
day.
or twice.
Billy Madison and some of those. But Clint, what's the Holy Shnikes moment?
Man, there's been a bunch of them. Have you seen some of these? I had no idea NBA contracts have gotten this out of hand. I mean, Steph Curry signed a contract 4 years, $215 million. These guys are making 40+ million a year. I mean,
That's
Lonzo
nuts.
Ball just Patrick, you may remember this better than I do. He signed 3 years, $85 million. And my basketball shot looks prettier than his. And that's not saying, I mean, it's just I get it. If somebody's willing to pay you, you might as well take it. I mean, I don't hate anybody for taking a dime, but this is just wow.
Yeah.
I was floored. But I saw that 4 years, 250. The man's making over $50 million a year. Patrick Mahomes making 40. It's just like, wow. I don't know what to say other than wow.
Holy Shnikes is what you can say.
Holy Shnikes, guys.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about it on the basketball thing, and then you look at who the Lakers just put together. You got LeBron, Russell Westbrook, Melo, and Davis. And they have, I saw something like 4 or 5 players over 35 years old.
Yeah.
Because they have, they've also signed Dwight Howard, Superman. That was
Malik Monk.
Never quite super, but yeah, man.
Have you seen their team photo? It's just the cast of the Expendables is all it is.
That's right. Yeah.
Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme and all of those guys. It's just the Expendables cast.
Which is going to be probably a lot like the movie. You know, you're like, boy, there's those guys made some good movies back in the day. But together, it's not going to be good.
Not anymore.
And see, Bobby Portis signed a 2-year contract for $9 million, and I almost feel bad for him. I'm like,
yeah, poor guy.
Poor guy's got to live off $9 million. Steph Curry made that for that 3-pointer he just hit. Yeah. I mean, it's just outrageous.
Look, in the end, if you want to make a lot of money, you either need to be a middling NBA player or a decent relief pitcher in the MLB, and you will have a long career and people will pay you lots of money.
Yep. You're right. Exactly right. Put that basketball in their hand, teach them a jump shot, or put that baseball in their left hand, teach them how to pitch.
That's right. Left-handers, baby. Make them a left-hander, teach them to throw a fastball and a change-up, and sit back and watch the money roll in.
That's right. those golf clubs aren't a bad way to make a little money. At least less.
No,
they won't end their career with their body beat up.
No, but the difference is your money's not guaranteed in golf.
No, you're right.
So you got to go out and make your money every week.
Well, and the other thing is, which we kind of talked about on here last week, we were talking about the international basketball program, how much improved it is. Everybody keeps saying, well, the dream team would have done this. Well, get over it, people. The international teams are better. It's like playing night and day. Yeah. But nowadays, for the NBA guys, that's why someone is willing to go out, be one and done a lot quicker. Because if they don't get drafted, they're still going to make a good living overseas somewhere, and they can make a good living for a long time over there.
Yeah, Dusty Hannah's just signed to play another contract. He's playing in Turkey, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
I may be wrong on Turkey, but
yeah, and he kept trying in Memphis, and they kept bringing him up. He'd do okay, but I don't think his defense was good enough. Well, anyway, all right. So we got Patrick here, and you think we got this guy that he has rubbed elbows with some of the biggest sports names out there. So here, Travis and Clint are going to talk to him about all this sports stuff. Nope, not on this podcast, folks.
No.
Because Patrick is also a certified barbecue judge.
There we go, yeah.
Hence the pictures of barbecue. And
God,
so,
I'm so hungry.
Patrick, talk to us about, now you're a KC style, I forget the official acronym or whatever.
Well, Kansas City Barbecue Society is where I'm certified through.
Okay.
Yeah.
However, because of your travels with Northwestern, you're all over Texas and all over a lot of places, really. So you've gotten to try a lot of different styles. That you've tried the Memphis style. You tried some Carolina style too, but mostly probably Texas and KC. Which is best?
Oh, well, Texas is best. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt of that. I think the main thing that most of the other styles of barbecue miss out on is beef. They just don't do beef, right? I mean, you go to Kansas City, they do burn ends, which is technically brisket, and they do good burn ends. But you try to get a sliced brisket from a Kansas City barbecue place, and by and large, it's not going to be very good. Their pork stuff is really good. Their ribs are good, that kind of thing. The burn ends, like I mentioned, which is weird because you would think they do good burn ends, which is literally just the fatty part of the brisket cubed up. Then you would think they could do a good sliced brisket, and they just don't. For whatever reason, they don't have that ability. But the burn ends are lovely. But then you get into Texas, and they're doing the Texas Trinity, right? The Holy Trinity of Texas, which is brisket, pork, in this case, ribs, sausage. And they do it better than anyone else. And so, I'll contend, and you can kind of see, like, which shoulder? This over here. Over here.
Brisket.
Yeah, that's brisket right there. And that stuff, you get a good piece of brisket from a Texas barbecue joint, and it'll change your life. I mean, everybody's eating a rib that they like. Everyone's eating a sausage that they like. But by and large, unless you've been to Texas, you haven't had a decent piece of brisket in your life. And a good piece of fatty brisket that's well cooked and well rendered is the single best bite of barbecue, single best bite of meat, really, that I've ever had, and most people could ever experience.
Now, Patrick, you're talking about brisket, and I assume you're on the Twitter. Did you see Lincoln Riley's brisket? And if
I did.
And if you did, how horrified were you?
Here's the thing. This is what people need to understand about posting pictures of barbecue. You post this picture right here behind me on my background, that's a great looking plate. No one's going to be upset at you. You cannot post anything if it doesn't look good. And, that might have been the tastiest sawdust. That may have been the tastiest sawdust that anyone's ever eaten in their entire life, but it looked bad. And you just can't post it. Like, the number one rule is do not post things that look bad, especially if it's barbecue, because the barbecue nation will come after you. There was the famous photo of the Brooklyn style barbecue, which was the plate of like one horrible gray slice of brisket, and everybody just kills that thing. I mean, if you're gonna be gutsy enough to go ahead and post a picture of barbecue, especially if it's something you made, you better well make sure it looks good and doesn't look like it's being held together by glue just for the picture's sake.
Yeah, that was one of the worst. I wouldn't have posted, and I consider myself novice at best. I wasn't gonna, but it looked worse than Oklahoma's defense usually looks. So
no, and that's the thing. Oklahoma by and large is not known for brisket, so not surprisingly, they don't have a decent brisket. And the guy I'm assuming Lincoln Riley's the highest paid person in Oklahoma. That's my guess. And so he probably, as the sort of steward of the state, needs to do a little bit better, especially if you're going to border Texas.
Yeah.
And your biggest rival is Texas, in the biggest home of barbecue in the country, in the world, in Austin. You better come correct, or else you're going to get ridiculed.
Oh yeah.
And he should have smoked an Oklahoma tenderloin.
He should have smoked anything.
Which is a bologna for you guys that don't know.
Smoked bologna's delicious.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
My favorite joint here, 45 minutes east of here in Jefferson, Texas, it smokes bologna all the time, and it's wonderful. But man, if you're going to do a brisket, you better find a way to frame that thing up so it looks good, or else you're getting ridiculed. Who was it? The senator from Texas, also John Cornyn, I think, posted one, and he got ridiculed for it. Like, you can't do it, man. You can't do it. You can't post bad pictures of barbecue and get away with it.
Yeah.
Now, we do have to talk a little bit of sports with you, since we got a sports guru here. Now, I saw something today. I know Travis got a lot of prepared questions, but I'm going to jump in with one that I know I didn't talk to Travis about. But so there's this 5-star quarterback that's skipping his senior year of high school. Go ahead and roll at Ohio State.
Yep.
Ewers is his name.
Quinn Ewers,
Quinn Ewers. Is this a sign of things to come, where more elite prospects may skip their senior year of high school so they can go ahead and start making that NIL money?
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by this at all. And it's funny, this is not actually now, for doing it for the money is the new part of this, but this is not a new thing where kids suddenly decide to skip a senior season and jump ahead. Actually, one of the most famous examples came from Shreveport, where I live. John David Booty, who was Abram Booty and Josh Booty's younger brother. He left Evangel Christian Academy early and enrolled at USC when he became the quarterback out there. So this is not unprecedented for a kid to leave school early and enroll in college. The unprecedented part is doing it for the money. And look, I'm a big believer in get your money when you can get your money. There's nothing that says that Quinn Ewers is ever going to make it to the league. His leg could come off in a threshing accident sometime in his sophomore year, and he'll never get to go to the NFL. But because he got to college and he made some of that NIL money, he might have a chance to kind of start with a better nest egg. So I'm all about kids getting their money, especially now that they can do it legally. It's all above the table. The guy over in y'all's neck of the woods, Jordan Wright from Wright's Barbecue in Fayetteville, who did the NIL deal with the whole offensive line, all of that stuff. Get your money when you can, man. Get your opportunities. And if that means you leave school early, I mean, so what? Look, you can romanticize high school football all you want, and there is a real romance to it. There's a real, my last homecoming game, and there is a romanticism around high school athletics. But if I tell a 17-year-old kid, hey, you can go play, Hickory High over here at homecoming, or you can go to college, probably aren't going to start this year, but you got a chance to probably make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in money, if not a little bit more, because of who you are and what your name is. Jump at that every single time, single time.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think it's, I mean, and I think Clint does too. Get your money when you can. You're not guaranteed it. However, from also realizing this changes things a lot.
Sure.
There's going to be a lot of changes to sports. Now, once again, not saying it's bad changes, but there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be ways to, there's going to be kids that get distracted by the making money on the side to where they're not putting it together on the field. They're going to be.
And the thing is, if you believe in capitalism, then the market corrects itself on that, right? So Quinn Ewers comes in, he signs a big NIL deal, and he's making, I don't know, 80 grand in his first year. He's hawking pickup trucks for the local Dodge dealership, and he's got a thing for Canes and whatever else. And then he goes out there and he's terrible, right? He's not any good. He's overmatched. He was not as good as advertised. It's the Tate Martell, right? Tate Martell has transferred 400 times already, right? No one's going to give Tate Martell any huge NIL deals because he doesn't have that sort of name and respect. So Ewers comes in, he's got the name, he's a hot prospect. People are going to jump at trying to get him to endorse their stuff. And then if he turns out to be a bust, people are going to stop giving him money to endorse things. So I think there will be, the talk about the Alabama quarterback is that he's making $800,000 in NIL money. Well, you know what? If he's terrible, that money ain't coming back to him next year.
Yeah.
So I think the market will by and large correct itself. And if, let's say a company decides they're going to do an NIL deal with a kid and they spend, let's just say $100,000 on these various kids, and they don't see $100,000 in return, then there's a very real possibility they go, you know what, we'll do $20,000 next year. You're going to find, there are going to be boosters and companies that'll spend money just to spend money, but that's been happening already in the world of sports. It's just been under the table illegally. That's happened at, all the time at the highest levels. It's been going on for decades. But what you'll find here is now that they can do it above board, if they're not getting the return on it that they want, they're not going to continue to do it just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Now, did you agree with the decision for the NCAA to go, because Reggie Bush wanted his Heisman back, the Fab Five wanted their records back? Did you agree with that decision?
No, I think the NCAA by and large is much too heavy-handed, especially with individual punishments. I mean, what Reggie Bush did is not. I mean, it's just not that big a deal. Right. It wasn't like it was some massive illegal. It wasn't SMU, right? SMU, where they're literally paying guys, the governor's signing off on these contracts and these checks to these kids. What he did was not that big a deal. And so the problem you run into is just because it's not illegal now doesn't mean it wasn't illegal then. And so it's going to be hard to go back and sort of redo all of the various things that have changed in terms of legality. You can't go back and retcon or redo all of these various decisions that you made because, hey, it was illegal then, right? I mean, we're moving in a direction where marijuana is going to be legal probably nationwide here before too long. You can't go back and then say, okay, well, Marshawn Lynch, we caught you doing this and this with weed, we're going to. No, I mean, you're not going to necessarily get that. I don't think you can go back and do that. I wish the NCAA would have given him his Heisman back because he earned the award. No matter why he was at USC, it's the Pete Rose argument, right? I mean, is Pete Rose, should he be in the Hall of Fame because of what he did on the field, or should he not be in the Hall of Fame because of what he did off the field? And that's, to me, the ultimate thing. If you're going to have a Heisman, the Heisman's an on-field award. He should have his Heisman because what he did on the field was worthy of that award, whether or not you believe why he was at USC was a good thing.
Yeah. And even more so because what he did to break the rules in no way affected his playing. Even with the Pete Rose argument, you could say, well, Pete Rose bet on games he played in.
But see, Major League Baseball,
you could at least say that with him. But with
Major League Baseball,
Reggie Bush,
different animal. Go ahead, I'm interrupting.
Well, but I mean, I'm just saying, Reggie Bush. I mean, it didn't It didn't improve anything. He just,
Yeah.
all it did was, put some money in his account and his parents' account or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, see, baseball, they're kind of like when McGuire was on steroids, when Canseco was on steroids. It wasn't illegal, folks. There was no rule against it, but they keep them out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well,
it
was technically illegal in the country, but
right.
it was not against the rules of baseball.
Right.
Yeah. It was government illegal.
I think one of the
Yeah.
worst arguments I ever heard was from the old union boss, I think Donald Fear.
Mhm.
He's like, well, they're saying we shouldn't let them do it because it's bad for them, but cigarettes are bad for them too, and we let them smoke. That was an actual quote.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, speaking of changes in college sports, which, you spend a lot of your time there, especially with Northwestern, of course, on kind of a second tier level there. But with the new super conference with Oklahoma and Texas, is this the beginning of the end of the NCAA with NIL and this super conference and the possibility of us seeing more super conferences down the road?
Well, here's the thing. This is what the NCAA is always going to be around in some regard. It may not be the NCAA that we know it right now. That might disband. But here's the problem. All right, let's just say you give the SEC, or let's just say the NCAA cease to exist tomorrow. Okay, it's done. Right, well, what changes? College football, nothing. Right, the NCAA doesn't deal with college football now anyway. They do enforcement, but they don't have anything to do with the postseason. College football would change none. All right, but then what happens in every other sport that college athletics provides? Volleyball championships gone, soccer championships gone, softball, baseball, the NCAA basketball tournament, men's and women's. You keep going, and what you realize is the NCAA does so much stuff that people, I don't know, even understand, that they hear, okay, the NCAA is sort of the enforcement arm of college athletics. They go in, they pursue wrongdoing, they punish teams, all of that. But they're running Division III championships in every sport. They're running Division II championships in every sport. They're running FCS football championships. Everything but the Power Five and Group of Five championships in football, the NCAA runs. So what happens? If the NCAA disappears, well, you still got to have someone that's in charge of oversight of these various schools. Otherwise, just let them all do anything they want illegally.
Yeah.
If there's no punishment, there's no consequences, right? So what's the first thing that happens? The SEC and whoever, they create something, the NCAA basically, to then oversee all of their programs, right? And then, okay, well, what about somebody's got to do the soccer championship? And all of the other 70 whatever championships that the NCAA puts on, the conference commissioners and the presidents of the universities don't want to have to deal with that, right? So they create an entity. Hey, govern our championships. Make sure that the selection process is good. Y'all figure out where to host them and how many teams they're going to be. Right? They're not going to want to deal with all that minutia. So the idea that the NCAA is outdated is certainly valid. There's no doubt about that. But the idea that suddenly the NCAA is going to disappear or these conferences are going to back away from the NCAA, they can, but then they're just going to have to create something that does exactly what the NCAA does right now. They're just going to call it something different because they don't want to put on all the championships, and someone has to have oversight of wrongdoing and making sure. Otherwise, it's just a free-for-all, and everyone can just cheat all the time if there's no repercussions for it.
No, you're right. Another question. So rumors are out there now that Florida State and Clemson are trying to join. I've reached out to the SEC. There's also, I heard a rumor about North Carolina. Is this true? Do you think there's actually other schools trying to jump in? And at what point does the SEC go, hey, we're full?
I'll say this. If someone's reporting that rumor, then it's not true. because look at how this Oklahoma and Texas thing went down. They literally had been talking about this for 6 to 8 months, and you hadn't heard the first word about it. And then the week that it's going to be announced, it gets leaked. Right. That was, I mean, the Austin American Statesman is the one who had it, but they didn't have it until literally the week that it was going to be released. No one had this 4 months ago when they were all talking about it. So if you're hearing about it, chances are it's all just smoke, because if they're making it happen, they're doing it quietly. Look at the 2 huge decisions that came out this year that we did not hear one word about until they happened. Obviously, the Oklahoma-Texas deal, we heard the week they were going to announce it. They've been talking about it for 6 months. And the 12-team playoff, we had not heard a word about a 12-team playoff. And then suddenly there's 5 conference commissioners who show up and they go, we got a whole plan, 12 teams, let's go. We didn't hear word one about that. I'm telling you, amazing in this day and age, but secrets can still be kept if the right person, the right people are keeping them. And so I think if you're hearing rumors that such and such is talking about doing this and that, then I think it's just people talking, because the people that really are in charge of making this happen are keeping quiet.
That's what I think also. I think some of that's coming from, there's talk that in the past, the SEC went after both Clemson and Florida State and they turned them down. And, now, people are thinking, well, they'd be crazy to turn them down. I really do think I'm a firm believer that we're going to see. Last week, Clint and I talked about you've seen the deal going around with the 5 16-team conferences, super conferences. I think that's what we're going to end up seeing.
Well,
that's something I heard about years ago. And then I heard Ron McGee was interviewed on, I think Dan Patrick's show or something like that this week. And, he said that Roy Kramer laid that out for him. What's happening with SEC right now with adding Oklahoma and Texas, that Roy Kramer laid that out for him years ago and said, this is where we're headed. And I think this is something that's been in the works for years. And I think that's where they're going. I think you're exactly right about the NCAA. I do think they may come up with something and call it another name, kind of like they did with the NAIA years ago, and switch to NCAA. The NAIA is still there for some smaller schools that are still members of that, but then the NCAA came in and took over and changed. Some things changed about what they did, and I think it'll be a similar transition. They may call it something else. But like you said, someone else is going to have to cover all those other tournaments,
they're not. Greg Sankey isn't interested in dealing with the soccer national championship. He doesn't want to deal with that. So he's not going to deal with that. They're going to have some other group that's in charge of that. And that's going to be your sort of faux NCAA, whatever it's going to be called or whatever they might want to call it. It's not going to be at that point. It's not going to be the SEC. And the major thing is oversight. I mean, you've got to have someone that's got some bite to it that can actually look into wrongdoing. Otherwise, everyone can just cheat all they want and not have to worry about it.
Well, and that's the thing with this NIL thing. You're not just going to the Wild Wild West on this deal. You're going to have some oversight, like you said, on the NIL stuff. I mean, there's going to have to be some kind of rules.
Well, the rules right now, it's being controlled by the compliance offices within each university. You've seen where, like I said, Jordan Wright at Arkansas, up in Fayetteville at Wright's Barbecue, right?
And you interviewed him on your show, didn't you?
I did, and we talked about it. And he wanted to do an NIL deal with the entire offensive line, so he has to go through the compliance office, and a lot of the schools have contracted out the NIL stuff to other organizations. They have basically firms that are developed now that deal with NIL stuff. And so they go to, let's just say, big C, bigger T, NIL, whatever. And they go to y'all and they say, okay, we have this kid who wants to do this deal. You go, okay, that's all of the boxes are checked. We'll double check with the compliance office at Arkansas. They say, hey, that looks good. So, hey, we're signing off on it. Check, let's go. Let's make it happen. So there are now firms and companies that are kind of stepping in and doing this. The difference is there has to be some kind of quid pro quo here. There has to be something in return, much like you used to have, punishments for jobs that kids didn't have to work, right? This kid's working at the car wash, but he never shows up and we still pay him whatever amount of money over the summer. Yeah. Much like those, you can't just go and say, oh, well, I'm Travis Johnson. I've got $50 million. I'm going to pay the quarterback at Arkansas $100,000 and that's an NIL deal. Well, there has to be something else involved. It has to be some kind of a deal. Right. There has to be some legality to it. The difference is now you can basically pay the kids over the table as opposed to under the table. The difference being it has to be a legitimate business. It has to be doing legitimate business, and you have to get something out of it. Yeah. The Wright's Barbecue, those guys are posting Instagrams and tweets and all of that stuff. You're not, if you just go and try to do an NIL deal with the QB at Arkansas and just pay him just for being there and being the QB at Arkansas, that kind of deal is never going to pass muster.
I think we're really going to see it different whenever the social media influencer money, the guys that are, Arkansas lost a receiver to Oklahoma,
Mike Woods,
and he was had a great YouTube channel and great, online presence. And whenever the NIL thing came through, it made everyone was wondering why he would transfer, because he was Arkansas's, second receiver, probably he just played the spring game, but he's standing to make a lot more money at Oklahoma just through all the social media stuff that he does, if he gets a little bit of playing time there.
Yeah. I mean, the amazing thing is the athlete in college that stands to make the most money is the gymnast from LSU, Olivia Dunn, because she's got combined 4 million Instagram and TikTok and Twitter followers. And so she stands to make a lot of money because one post from her has a reach that most of these companies can't do. And let's say a cosmetics company, right? A cosmetics company comes in, says we're going to pay her $100,000 to hawk our makeup or whatever. And so they're reaching an audience, I'm sure her audience is pretty split between, girls that are fans, gymnasts or whatever, and probably really ridiculous dudes who just like looking at her. But by and large, they're going to be able to hit, those companies are going to be able to hit markets and numbers from one post. She's going to get 1 million views, 2 million views, and they can't organically do that through their own brands.
Yeah. Now, changing the subject a little bit here, Patrick, you went to school here in Arkansas. You've been around Arkansas quite a bit, so the Razorback fandom that we're very sane, we're very put together.
I called the Hogs in the Cotton Bowl, for goodness sakes. All right, I have my bona fides.
That's right, 2000 Cotton Bowl, baby. We were there. But here's my question for you. You're a guy that you talk to other people. You've interviewed Sam Pittman. You've interviewed people from SEC Network, ESPN, things like that. What is, from the outside Arkansas looking in, what do you think of what's going on at Arkansas with, let's just say, the football team right now with Sam Pittman? Do you think he was a good hire? Do you think he's the right coach? We're in love with him in Arkansas, right? We've adopted him in, he's the greatest thing ever. But what do you think the national spotlight is? Because I could see where people outside would say, they settled for an offensive line guy. That's all they could get to go to Arkansas.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, did LSU settle for a defensive line guy?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in the end, it's the players you get and the coaches that you have coaching them, right? And I think Sam Pittman is the perfect guy for Arkansas. Here's why. I think he has the parts that Brett Bielema didn't have, right? He and Bielema are similar guys, offensive line backgrounds. They're both kind of, you know, rough and tumble type guys. The difference is Bielema is a northern guy, right? He's a Yankee. Sam Pittman comes in. He coached at Georgia, right? He coached at Arkansas. He's a guy that knows the landscape, knows how to handle the state of Arkansas, and still have a way to. He's got enough contacts to recruit nationally, and so I think he's the perfect guy for the job. I thought Bielema was a good fit too, except for a bit of the culture that went on there, and the fact that he wasn't from the South and didn't. Pittman comes in with the connections already made from all of his time in the SEC, all of his time in the South. And, look, he looks like a lot of people in Arkansas look, right? He's kind of seems like a blue collar guy. He's not talking to you. Petrino's thing was he was an evil genius, but he always seemed like he thought he was better than you. And look, by and large, especially X's and O's, he was better than you. I mean, the guy is an absolute football genius. He's just a bad person, right? Yeah. Pittman feels like he's a good person, but he's also, much like Ed Orgeron at LSU, I think they're two sides of the same coin, where they both understand their limitations. They both know how to basically kind of expand themselves. Orgeron is on the cutting edge of sleep therapy, and he's on the cutting edge of movement and tracking and all of that stuff. Pittman hires Bryles as his offensive coordinator, and that tells me he's not a guy that's coming in to run the eye, right? Like, so he understands that, you need to put guys around you that are able to utilize the talent you have. Now he has to get the talent in there, and then have the correct coaches in place that will utilize that talent. And look, with the transfer portal and now transfers being penalty free one time, that changes the whole landscape. That dude can go out and get just about anybody he wants anywhere. That, there's a kid that enters the portal. You realize there were 2,500 kids that entered the transfer portal this year. Like, that's insane. No, it's just not, there's just not enough places for all of these kids to go, but that's another subject. But, he's going to be able to go in, he's going to get his choice of kids in Arkansas. He's going to get, the kids in Memphis. He's going to be able to go into Oklahoma and get some kids. And then he's able to go in and pick and choose kids in that transfer portal, get those guys in. And as long as he's getting the talent in there, and he's continuing to understand that he needs modern coaches who coach in a modern way, and he seems to get that, I think he's going to have success.
Well, and a lot of the question with Arkansas is their defensive line. And I didn't realize, I believe we have 3 or 4 transfer defensive linemen.
3,
3,
Yeah, and that's the nature. I mean, I talked to Skip Holtz today, Louisiana Tech. They got 16 transfers coming in this year because there's no penalty. And so now roster management in college football is less, hey, we're going to get a good high school class, and then we're going to supplement, 3 or 4 high school classes in a row, and then we supplement those guys with some JUCO kids. Now it's, hey, we're going to get, and Skip even said, hey, we signed 16 freshmen last year. He said we were going to sign 16 this year, but then we'd have 32 freshmen because they all got their year and they all redshirt. He said, so we didn't need that. So instead we signed 9 freshmen this year, and then went out, we got 16 dudes out of the portal because they're ready to go. They're going to come in ready on day one to hit the ground running. And so now your roster management in college football, especially at the highest levels, is our freshmen that we're bringing in, guys that we're bringing along, but then we're picking and choosing these other portal guys that we can pop in immediately. And those guys are going to be plug and play right now, because that guy, we saw him at Virginia Tech. That guy, we saw him at Penn State. We know they can play. Let's go.
It's got to be hard. It's got to be hard in the locker room too, a little bit, because, you know, there's a lot of kids that wait their time. Now's their time. They get a transfer, you know. I mean, Giovanni Johnson comes to my mind out of Conway, signed with Rice. And he was their going to be their incumbent starter. And, well, they had a guy named Luke McCafferty transfer in. Yeah. McCaffrey. One of the McCaffrey brothers transferred in.
Well, I mean, that's what happened at Tech, actually. We were talking about that. You know, they've got a kid that was coming off of an injury and was supposed to be their starter. He was one that had transferred in from Abilene Christian to Tech. And he broke his leg, had a pretty horrific leg break. Injury's not healing the way it's supposed to, not really working out. And so next thing you know, they go out and they get, I think it's Austin Kendall or whatever from West Virginia, who was at Oklahoma. And he comes in and, hey, guess who the starter is this year? Duh. Yeah. The kid from West Virginia that was at Oklahoma. But that's the nature of the beast now. So what that means is, now those kids turn around that get beat out and they hit the transfer portal, and that just trickles down. And you know, it's wild, man. You really want to talk the wild west in college athletics is not NIL. It's the transfer portal.
I agree.
That's the wild west.
Yeah. I agree totally. And like Clint was saying, you know, we like with the defensive line at Arkansas, you got those 3 guys that came in, 2 of which come from Missouri. And like you were saying, Patrick, you got good tape of them playing against SEC talent and playing with SEC talent. So you know
and
what
probably
they can
playing
do.
Against you.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And you know what they can do. You know what their strengths and weaknesses are a lot better than some high school kid. So
you want to hear
getting
something crazy?
You know what you're getting.
You want to hear something crazy? So I have heard that a mid-major basketball coach has refused to schedule a certain program, and I don't know which program it was, but refused to play up at at certain Power 5 programs because they don't want to audition their kids for those coaches so that they can then get transferred out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, because you had that guy, OBU basketball player that was a really good 3-point shooter. I mean, imagine
Mitchell Bolding.
Bolding, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine that the portal been a thing too, because you know, like I think you said you thought something about Mississippi State at one point and reached out to him. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
Well, and the difference now is, you know, they don't even have to reach out to them. The kid goes to the compliance officer and says, hey, I want to put my name in the portal. And boom, Northwestern State lost their best player this past year to the transfer portal. And it wasn't, for his at least was a good reason. He was not transferring out because he wanted to play somewhere better or bigger. He was transferring out because he just wanted to be closer to home. And so he goes from NSU, who was 4th place in the Southland and was a pretty good team. And he's from Iowa. He transfers to Western Illinois. It's 40 miles from his home. And they're a terrible basketball team. But he just wanted to be closer to home, and that's where he transferred out to. But you've got kids, the player of the year in the Southland Conference at Sam Houston, goes into the transfer portal and leaves. He's gone. You know, these kids they're looking at this as opportunities. And in basketball, it's much more impactful, obviously, because there's fewer guys. But in college basketball, the transfer portal and the ability for these kids to be really good for 2 or 3 years at a small college or, you know, group of 5 or, you know, whatever, and then turn around and go up from there. NSU has lost its best player the last 2 years to the transfer portal. One kid went to Georgetown and was really good. And this year the kid goes back, you know, at least he's only going because he's homesick, but that's the nature of the beast. That's what we're dealing with now in college athletics, and especially college basketball.
Well, in basketball, you can take a transfer and you can totally turn your program around.
Sure.
I mean, you can. It takes 2 or 3.
Musselman did some of that.
Oh, no. And I mean, he's able to mix it well. And I don't think anybody does anybody play the portal even close to as good as Musselman in college?
I think Musselman's the John Calipari of it. I mean, he's the
I'll be honest with you, the guy that's really the best at transfers in college basketball, and I don't like him, is Will Wade at LSU. Nobody hustles the transfer portal like that dude does. He keeps getting these guys in from other programs. I don't know why they keep coming. Probably strong ass offers, my guess. But they keep coming in. They keep coming in, and he actually has gone on the record and said, "Look, I don't build a program. I build a team every year." He's like, "I'm not looking to the future. I'm not looking to 3 or 4 years down the road because I'm not going to have these kids for 3 or 4 years." He said, "I'm literally looking to build right now." So if I go, and he goes every year now, he's plucking 3, 4, 5 transfers out of the portal, bringing them in, and they somehow find a way to get it done.
Well, Musselman's doing the same thing, and he, in interviews, he'll talk about one of the reasons he thinks he's pretty good at that is all his time being in like the NBA D League.
Yeah, it's free agency
like that, because he would have to put together teams in a short time span. And so like this last year, he had a lot of transfers in. He had Justin Smith and some others, and then a lot of freshmen that came in, and trying to combine all those people. And he did a good job. We had a run to the, in the tournament there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's free agency in college athletics now. It really is.
And that's the way Musselman says he looks at it.
Yeah. And that's it's the same way Will Wade's doing it. He's not building for 4 years down the road, because he's not going to keep these kids for 4 years. They're going to be there for 1, 2, 3 years, and they're going to jump. And so he's just looking at it as, I just need to keep building for 1 and 2 year spans, not 3 and 4 year spans.
Yeah. So should Will Wade still be coaching?
For those of you listening on the pot on Apple, no, he said no.
No, this is my sticking point. You legitimately have this dude on tape saying he's making a strong ass offer to Javonte Smart, and how now Smart wants more, and he's got, they literally have tape of him doing this.
Yeah.
And it's just okay, so what, right? I mean, it's and now the NCAA saying they're pulling back from enforcement now. I don't know that he's ever going to get punished for it. I don't know that he's ever, Sean Miller and him and Bill Self and the stuff that went down at Carolina. And look, here's the thing. Every top line prospect in the country, especially in basketball, is getting something.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before the age of the NIL, Moses Moody, that kid's getting something. Yeah. All right. No one's immune to it. They're getting something, whether it's, cash, whether it's other considerations, whatever. Yeah. Everyone's getting something.
Well, y'all the idea that go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, the idea that you have a coach literally on tape saying, "Hey, we made this strong ass offer to Javonte Smart, and it's not something I haven't done before." How a school can continue to employ that guy is beyond me, man. I don't get it. I don't know.
Well, LSU's had a lot of litigation trouble here recently. So.
Yeah. And look, there's obviously a lot of issues going on at LSU right now. It's, and it seems to be a bit systemic, and it appears that it's a lot of kind of the old guard, if you will. The people that are at the center of all these controversies, especially on the administrative side, there's people like Verge Osbury and the senior women's administrator and all these people. They're people that have been there for 20, 30 years. And so I think what you're seeing is you're going to have to sort of excise a lot of that sort of cancerous material, if you will, in order to get the program headed back in the right direction. Because let's be honest, in Louisiana, and I know it's probably this way a lot in Arkansas, but in Louisiana, you're the head football coach at LSU, you're the king, right? If a player does something wrong, they call you first, and you get to say, "Hey, this kid's going to jail." Now that's changing. We're now seeing in today's day and age where the cops are kind of ignoring all that. But as you know, back in the day, a player drives drunk, the cops would pick him up and drive him back to the dorm room and call the coach and say, "Hey, just want to let you know we picked up Jim. He was out there driving drunk. We took him home," and then he run gassers. the next day at practice or something. That day and age is starting to fall, and it's taking a little bit longer at LSU.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Clint and I have a mutual friend that played SEC basketball, and he would tell us stories about he was the guy on the team that coach would call and say, "Hey, so-and-so's down at the jail, go pick them up."
Yeah.
And,
No, I mean,
it never made it into the newspapers or
no,
TV.
that was the good old boy, network. And it used to be the coach was local yokel sheriff found the coach passed out in his car at the red light. Okay, coach, let's get you on home. We're not going to file a report. That doesn't work anymore now. Now everything is getting filed. We're seeing a new sort of openness in that, but that's hard to kind of get all of that out because there's so much of that old school, old boy influence that are in these programs, especially ones like LSU and Arkansas that are kind of the cream of the crop programs.
Yeah.
Now, just out of curiosity, have you ever seen an athletic director fall as fast as Jeff Long did?
Oh boy, I like Jeff too. Jeff was actually
LSU, and it hit the brain. So
yeah, I mean, Jeff was Jeff was actually a guy who would just call into the Brando show randomly. Like we wouldn't have him on as a guest. He'd just call in to talk to Tim. And I've had some conversations with Jeff Long, and the guy he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But man, the problem is when you take it upon yourself to make personnel decisions on your own, and you either don't do your due diligence and something catches you, or you perhaps do your due diligence and it's found out that you knew about stuff like this, Les Miles obviously being the number one example.
Yeah.
You just can't come back from that. And I feel for him because at Arkansas, the major issue at Arkansas was the fact that he just hired the wrong guys.
Right.
The coaches that he hired weren't great. But look at the things he did do. Right. Y'all are playing Arkansas State for the first time since the 40s, playing another in-state school, and that was Jeff Long who was by and large pushing that stuff. And I love that. And so that he did some good things, but you can't have a bad hiring track record.
No.
Then go to a place like Kansas and hire a guy like Les Miles with the baggage that Les Miles came with. And you either didn't know because you didn't do your due diligence, or you did know and you covered it up.
No, and you can't. I mean, you're discovering it to Tennessee too. You can't get the football coach hire wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you may be able to miss
or
once, but you can't miss twice.
You can get it wrong once, but you have to, there has to be improvement. You have to see that, hey, things are going in the right. Hey, maybe the football hire was wrong, but you know what? We got some really good facilities going up. The next guy is going to be the guy that comes in and really makes it work. And you didn't see that enough. But like I said, some of the stuff he did to me off the field, playing the baseball team, playing in-state opponents, basketball, that kind of thing. That's something that Louisiana and LSU has done for 30, 40 years now, since Skip Bertman got to be the baseball coach. That when I got to Arkansas, I was shocked. I was like, I don't play anybody in state. Like, that doesn't, come on, that's keep the money in state. If you occasionally lose those games, so be it. But you know what? It's better than bringing in App State, or it's better than bringing in the Citadel and sending the money back to them. I know.
That was low.
Sorry,
man.
That brings bad memories.
Sorry, I actually didn't bring that up on purpose, but yeah, it's a bad example. It's a bad example, nevertheless.
Well, to me, one of the worst things Jeff Long did was, it was a good thing in one way. He expanded this football stadium, but the way he expanded it, he expanded the seats that were the club seats.
Right.
And if you paid attention to Razorback football, and especially ticket sales, the last tickets they sell for every game were the club seats on the other end zone. So then you fill up the new end zone with higher price club seats, because you're in these little pods now where you can have people, a waiter will come to you and things like that.
Yeah.
and it was you wasn't selling the other club seats. Why add these others? And if you go up there now, of course now the football team's not doing as good. It's on the up now, but you're not selling out the stadium like you used to.
Yeah.
But those are the one places you're not selling out are the seats that he added.
Yeah, and look, a lot of that has to do with Fayetteville and the area, right? Bentonville, Fayetteville. Yeah. It's a hugely expanding area. It's getting, look, Fayetteville and Bentonville will be, I think, and maybe already is, but I think will be better and more prosperous than Little Rock.
Oh yeah.
I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so for him, it's hey, let's look to the future, right? Yeah. Eventually we're going to have more corporations that are buying these things. We're going to have all these people that are in Bentonville and Fayetteville and all up and down there that are going to be, trying to buy these things. You have more wealth coming into the state in that area.
Yeah.
So I understand where it comes from.
I can see that.
From but at the same time, by and large, the Arkansas fan base is a blue collar fan base. They're not a white collar fan base. So the guys that are coming in from Searcy and from Dardanelle and from, places like that are not coming in looking to buy the $100 tickets. They're looking to get in there and call the hogs and have a good time, not looking to go in and sit and be waited on by somebody in a tuxedo.
No, they're sneaking Flask in. I've said behind them.
That's
yeah.
right.
I mean, that's everywhere. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. Serious question here, Patrick. You being at Northwestern, you get to call games at UCA.
Mm-hmm.
How bad is that? How bad is that field?
Hideous.
It is, in my mind, the worst field in college football, only because I haven't seen the red field at Eastern Washington, and I haven't seen the gray field at, Central Michigan or
something like
that. Not Central Michigan, it's Eastern Michigan, I think, has the gray field.
Yeah.
Personally, that I have seen, it's the worst field I've ever seen. I don't think you should be able to make a football field that's not some sort of a green color of some kind. NSU has the sort of alternating light and dark greens every 5 yards. Yeah. I think that looks really good.
Yeah.
Purple and gray and black just look terrible, and in person it looks even worse.
Yeah.
And as I recall, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe the NCAA has banned now putting in non-green fields. But I think I'm not 100% sure on this. There may be a rule in place where the schools that already have them can be grandfathered in, or
you can't take it away from Boise. You just can't do it.
That's the main thing is Boise and the blue field. that's iconic. It's ugly, but it's iconic. And so would you want a purple field at LSU? Would you want a red field like at Eastern Washington at Arkansas? Do you want an orange field at Tennessee?
No.
It's awful. It's awful, man. It really is hideous. But it's a great home field advantage, man. They win a ton up there.
Well, and I haven't even talked to one alumni that likes it. I mean, I haven't, and I know a couple. But most people think it's hideous.
I don't know anybody who likes it. I'm not even sure the UCA people like it. I think they just have to pretend they do.
That's right. Well, man, Patrick, it has been awesome having you on here. We appreciate you jumping on with us
and we've chased some rabbits, guys.
We did chase some rabbits, but we're all smarter for being here today.
We are.
At least two of us are.
That's right. That's right.
Some of us slept through all the smart stuff. So
that's right. That's right. That's true. My bad. I'm a loser. One more question for you, Patrick. We ask this sometimes. This is kind of downtime for sports, unless you're, big in the Olympics or whatever. But what are you watching right now? What are you watching on TV? Or movies or whatever? What's something you've watched that you're like, man, I'm really glad I've watched that?
So a couple of things. One, I'm a nerd. And so a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff. Loved WandaVision. Not a huge Falcon and Winter Soldier guy. Loved Loki. Those are both wonderful. The Teen Titans live action thing has been really good. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso on Apple, you absolutely positively must watch it. It is one of the best things I've ever seen in my entire life. It is just spectacular.
I know. I've been told that. I've got to download it, and I'm really not. Go ahead.
I'll say, other than that, I'm I tend to read a lot. I'm a big reader. So I'm I kind of Stephen King, John Grisham. I'm reading some Dean Koontz stuff right now. I like I like fiction stuff. I like kind of escapism and stuff. So by and large, I read mostly, and then I watch sitcoms for the most part. And then, some of the streaming stuff. I'm like I said, I'm a nerd. I read and, I push up my glasses and put my pocket protector in while I'm reading nerdy stuff.
There you go.
I can't tell you the last book I read. I seriously can't. It's been that long since I read a book. But I have a bone to pick with Travis because I was thumbing through Netflix the other day, and we did this subject a while back. And so I'm thumbing through Netflix with my remote. Yeah, I'm actually doing the thumb. Thanks. Now you made me self-conscious.
Hey, it's your thumb. It's not mine.
So and so I came across Alone that you talked about, and we recorded this podcast Tuesday. I started on episode 1, I think Sunday, about 5.
Have you seen Alone, Patrick?
Alone.
I have not.
It's one of those survival
I'm on episode
shows.
10. They just drop you off in the middle of the woods with nothing. I mean, nothing. You have a knife, and you have a knife.
You get 10 things. One of those is like a 30 below sleeping bag. You get like you only get like 2 pair of underwear or something like that. And
it's not quite naked and afraid, is what you're saying.
No.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
No, it is.
But and they're all usually in Arctic type places. It's the most real of all the but Clint told me about that. He was watching that, and so I was like, there was one on Hulu that it said the Beast. I want to see what that is. And it's Alone. It's the same company that did it, or same people, but it's called The Beast. And I clicked on it and started watching it. And what it is they will go out and they have 3 people, they send them out, and they'll have a fresh kill of an animal, like a moose, a hog, an alligator. For one of them, they were in Louisiana in a swamp. And those 3 people have nothing, no knives, no tools, and they have 30 days to stay out there. And all they have is that dead animal, which a moose is, you're getting 400 or 500 pounds of meat off of that,
Right.
But you got to cut it up. You got to cut it up. You got to start fire somehow. And you got to come up with ways to do it. And they do. It's amazing. Anyway.
I've never, I'll be honest with you. I've never understood that whole genre of things.
It's fascinating, Patrick. It's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole. I've watched Naked and Afraid, and I've watched Bear Grylls take all these celebrities out with him and, drink his own pee and stuff. I don't. That's not anything I ever want to have. Who doesn't get trapped somewhere where they don't have supplies? Me. You know why? Because I'm in my house and I have supplies. Patrick, I'm not preaching to the choir because you got to phone in and tap out. They would drop me off and I would have saw a bear and I'd be like, y'all just turn around.
I'm one of those guys to be like, all right, can one of my 10 things be like a car to drive out of here? What? I mean,
Gabe made fun of me because I said I'd want a cooler full of Lunchables.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is you eat them too fast.
Well, here, my number one thing would be my house with all my stuff.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
But I'll walk
Or
outside,
can I
I'll
get
do
a
it.
can I have a phone with like Postmates or DoorDash or something on it? Can
That's
I
right,
hey,
yeah.
can y'all deliver me some
That's right.
some Qdoba out here in the middle of this forest that I'm
What
trapped
do you
in?
mean you can't find the address?
Right.
I'm right here. I'm literally the only house on the street. You can't get there.
I've never understood the thrill of that stuff. Like,
Oh, no,
what's
it's
thrilling for
terrifying.
me? What's thrilling for me is when I change my air filters in
Yeah.
my house. Like that to me is accomplishing something majorly with like I am a domestic god when I change my air filters. I do not need to go out and have to field dress a moose with my bare hands and figure out how to cook it with no tools.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's gonna be a hard pass for me, dog.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
One more rabbit for you guys before we end the old podcast. Chase that last rabbit.
Okay. Go ahead. Oh.
Well, no, I thought that was the last.
Oh, sorry. I thought
that
you
was
said,
really confused. I was like, well, this is really awkward. I thought that was a
Yeah,
funny
you were
joke.
saying that was.
I thought you had one more rabbit.
Oh, I know.
That's what I was.
I like, well, because I said we chased a lot of rabbits, then we chased another rabbit.
Well, I'll tell you what I've been watching real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Is
the Beast.
King of the Hill.
Oh, yeah. You tell me about that.
I've been, for some reason, I hadn't watched it in years. And I was like, I'm going to watch that. And man, it's so funny.
It's
Bobby,
the sad thing is there is there's literally more new content coming on all of these streaming services in one day than we can watch in our entire lifetimes.
Yeah.
And yet I'll turn on an episode of Friends.
Yeah.
Or Star Trek: The Next Generation and just sit there and watch it and be like, oh, there's all kind of new stuff that I could be watching and enjoying. And instead, I'm just going to watch season 5 of Star Trek: The Next Generation because I love it and it's what I grew up with. It's weird, man. It's weird. I don't understand it.
I used to rotate through The Office and Parks and Rec.
They're great shows.
That I decided to branch out.
Not a huge Office fan, weirdly.
See, I wasn't either. I forced myself to watch it.
I probably watched 10 episodes of The Office. And same thing with Seinfeld. I probably watched 10, 15 episodes of Seinfeld and just don't laugh. Yeah. Like, I don't know why. It's not my type of humor. It doesn't do it for me. I don't know why.
See, Friday Night Lights is that show I can go back and watch again and again and again and again. And
well,
again.
Especially certain sketches. Like I'll go down rabbit holes of let me watch every What's Up With That or watch every Celebrity Jeopardy or whatever. Like
Saturday Night Live,
yeah. I mean, it's you get rabbit holes on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't stop.
Well, I'll catch myself just watching hours of like podcast highlights, and I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. It's just not I have my own podcast. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts because I only like.
It's weird. I have my own sports talk radio show, and I don't listen to much talk radio. Otherwise, like I don't. It's funny. I tell people all the time, like I'm in sports. I talk about sports, but sports is not my number one passion. I enjoy calling games. I really love that. Because it's live and in front of you and everything is different. And I enjoy doing a show because for me, it's not just a sports talk show, it's an entertainment show. And like, the story I told today about, a dating thing that happened with me. I talk barbecue and life and all of this stuff. Like that's what's fun for me. But like, I can't tell you the last time I just turned ESPN on and watched a Sports Center just because it doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah. And this is part of what me and Traps wanted this podcast. We wanted it to be number one, an outlet for entertainment side or creative side. And then the other one is just, we want it to be just two guys talking about sports and just whatever. Cause me and Travis, we'd always do this stuff where we just get on, make this list and all this. And it's just, and man, there's no guy better to do that with than you. And we appreciate you being on.
Yeah, man. Thanks once again, Patrick. And once again, check him out, the Patrick Netherton Show on Facebook. Go and like it and follow it. You'll get notifications when it comes up at 3:00 on weekdays. He's got a live video feed and text line if you want to interact with him and all that good stuff. So check him out. Once again, we need to thank Sean Michelle for giving us free use to his music for the podcast.
Yes.
Once again, Clint, I'm a paid podcaster.
I saw that.
Hometown Roofing bought me lunch today. That's all we get. I mean,
that's it. We get meals.
We got a buddy that owns a roofing company.
You got the Wright's Barbecue offensive line, Arkansas offensive line deal, man. They just get free food out of the deal.
That's
so
right,
giddy up.
You know what I should do? I should see if he would like offer to pay for dinner after my super fight if I'd wear a hometown roofing hat to the mat.
There you go. See,
there you go.
You got your hat. You can wear it up there. Okay. But yeah, Clint's got a super fight this weekend, Saturday, and he's going to get his jiu-jitsu on.
And I'll either win or I won't. And so,
that's right. That's right.
Well, we've went against each other one time, and he beat me. Little did he know, I actually won because I probably gave him COVID. But
okay. Yikes.
I didn't know I had it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway,
can you catch it through a podcast?
No, I don't have it now. I'm fully vaccinated. But that's your choice. Get informed, make your own choice. And that's political. I'm going to get on that.
Yeah.
Make your own choice.
Well, guys, appreciate it. It's been awesome. Patrick, you the man.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated. Anytime.
Always good to see you. And we out.
Sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come. Sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come. Listen, that's why I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no harvest till I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Listen, I wake up in the morning, I bow my head to pray. Mama told me if I don't, ain't nothing gonna change.